Mrs. Gray was thrilled Carmel Dougherty, her new friend, had come out of town to visit with her. Annie, her maid, showed them into the library before going to fetch refreshments. Cook had baked that morning, so she would be able to give Carmel some fresh cookies with her drink. They had elected to sit inside due to the heat of the sun. "I know I haven't lived in this town long, but I reckon we will see trouble soon," Carmel said, easing herself into one of the chairs beside the unlit fireplace. Mrs. Gray handed her a cup of tea, a cookie, and a plate, before taking her own seat opposite. "The town sure seems busier than ever. Clover Springs must think the whole of New York has moved in," Carmel said, smiling. Mrs. Gray smiled back. She had taken to the Irishwoman from their first meeting. She liked her as much as she'd hoped she would, having got to know her daughter Nora when the girl and her fiancé Robbie had returned with Doc Aaron from New York. While in New York, Alicia had met up with an old family friend, a rich man by the name of Mr. Prentice. Mr. Prentice had forged ahead with his plan for a hotel for Clover Springs. Robbie had secured several laborers from the Irish community, many of whom had been working on the railways. Charlie Dougherty, his soon-to-be brother-in-law, Carmel's grandson, had helpful contacts. But there hadn't been enough men to work on the library and building the seamstress shop, too. "Seems the blizzard in New York had a silver lining," Mrs. Gray observed as she drank her tea, "at least for those living there." Carmel nodded before saying, "It has resulted in lots of jobs, which will help the poor who suffered so badly during the storm. It's all those jobs being available that has led us to this trouble." Robbie mentioned that was why he had difficulties finding as many laborers as he needed, until Wilma Zack stepped in. Wilma Zack and Robbie had got on very well together from the first time they met. With Robbie's encouragement, Zack had sent for men from his community who needed work. The former slaves and their families had been having a hard time in Denver and welcomed the chance to come to Clover Springs. The two groups of men had set up camp just outside of town. Unfortunately, the two groups didn't get on as well as their respective representatives. "Sheriff Willis has his work cut out for him with that setup. I think Robbie may have made a mistake," Carmel said, her face twisted in concern for her granddaughter's husband-to-be. Why? She knew many were upset at the increasing numbers of blacks around Clover Springs. Mrs. Shaw and her friends had been very vocal in their disapproval of both groups, saying the Irish were drunkards and the blacks would murder them in their beds. Lorena wondered if David ever looked down on them from heaven above to despair over what he and the other men who had died in the war had given their lives for.